to cloud. Perfect. Okay, so for those of you that are watching this from home, I had Catherine and Brenna go and snag a band, or I think Catherine has a belt. That works fine too, as long as it's something that is at least a couple feet long. There you go, perfect. Very nice head accessory, Catherine. A couple feet long, and we're gonna build our mobility today around some things that you can use when you have like a band to help you tension certain things. For upper body and some lower body stuff, just things that I find can have an increased benefit when you have like a band or a towel, or if you have a mobility strap. Some people have them for yoga, I think. Whatever works for you, but just something that you can use like that. So first thing we're gonna do, it's one that you guys poor mobility through the shoulders, is using them as instead of like a PVC pipe for two different main things. One being going around the world. So let's go ahead and just do 20 of those. Putting a little tension. The thing I like about having something that's fluid versus the PVC pipe is that we can start it a little narrower because it'll stretch a little bit as we go back. And then if we really think about kind of pulling it to tension, we get a little bit of extra range of motion. Catherine, if for you, if it's a little bit too short, then instead go ahead and go like this, doing what we're used to as like the back of our pause slides. So you're still getting some pull and range of motion across the stretch in the chest, but you're not trying to crank on your shoulders because it's a little too short for this one. That's no problem. Okay, so going through there. And then after we do that one, the other one we're going to do with it that's really common, like I said, you're probably all used to it, is doing where we actually go up and behind. And a lot of people will do this stretch, right? But most of us, although I do have a sneaking suspicion that Brenna is actually able to grab both hands together, what you can do is you can use that band, if you guys can see me, where you use it so that you're not over pulling or pinching on the front of the bottom arm, and that you can walk yourself down with the top arm. So even if you're able to reach that position, something that you might still like, even if you're very flexible in using the band, is that you can use the bands, even if you're right next to it and really short, so pull down with one or pull up with the other to intensify the stretch. Right, so you can play around with it, or you can just walk your hands closer together for those of you that aren't as good. So go ahead and keep holding. We're just going to hang out here for, let's say, another 30 seconds. We just shy of about a minute of just playing with this one. So for people like you, like Brenna, right, you can use it, and if you want to like use the band to kind of pull down a little or pull up a little bit, just to create a little tension, especially since yours is stretchy. And then Catherine, for yours, you can just use it to walk closer to the other, or just to be able to hold. For those of you at home that are watching this later that maybe struggle with this or have too much pain in the front of the shoulder to do, you can also just drop that band and just work towards getting the stretch through here. That's fine, you know, working from one side to the other. Let's go ahead, carefully come out of it. Be gentle when you let go of the band, and then switch to the other side. And again, you can take the band and walk your way up. So you'll notice I'm much further away on this side. So for me, this might be as close as I get. And then after I'm done about halfway through the stretch, then I might think to kind of like try and scooch my hands a little closer together. And we're just gonna hang out here. Spend some time. I've had you guys do this one before. It's a really good one. Sometimes we use it as a test and retest. But I do like to repeat this one on occasion because it's one that a lot of times we don't put ourselves through because it's not super comfortable. It feels awkward. So since you're on with me at Mobility, I make you do it. And again, it's a really common one that is used for people that can't reach that to get better at reaching that position. Good. I don't have a timer with me today, so we're going by feel in our mobility. Let's go ahead and, I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling it. This is my worst side anyways. Go ahead and take that arm slowly down and out. And then to get some of that external rotation stretch right away, it's similar to what we do when we do a PVC pipe. So, sorry too, if you can hear my dogs barking. Go ahead and take that, put it back around the back side. You're gonna grab and grip down. And this might not stretch you as much if you have really like loose band like me and Brenna have. It might not stretch you as much, but what you can do is use it to pull against rotation. So it's less about when you have like a PVC pipe and you can just like grab and crank it over, but instead this is a little bit stretchy, a little give, so it can pull you there, but then I urge you to also kind of pull against that position, hold a little bit, then relax it and see how much more you can stretch it, and then pull a little bit. So we're doing more of an active hobo stretch, right? Catherine, yours is going to be a little bit more solid, like what it would be with, because it doesn't have stretch in the belt. So it's going to be more like what it might feel like with the PVC pipe, where you can just torque on it a little bit further and use the stiffness to get it to a bigger degree. But you can still, if you want to, add a little resistance backwards for internal rotation to over engage and then relax, and then see how much further you can get it to go out. You can also be pulling down and back. Brenna is kind of like down and back here because she's super flexible, but you can also put it to the side and make it more rotational. It's just dependent on you. Some people also like to put the band to the outside, but then lift the elbow up and then try to rotate, if that makes sense. Yeah, there you go. Nice, Brenna. And again, it might not feel like a huge, big stretch, especially after we did some other stuff, but it might start to get a little fatiguing and tired, and that's what we want, because that means you're relaxing some of those muscles and using some of those muscles that we don't always use. Let's go ahead and put it to the other side. So again, you can put it down to the side here, you can put it further back if you need to pull up against, or put it down to the side. You can also pull up, whatever you're feeling. Just different ways, trying some different things. You don't always have a PVC pipe floating around. Sometimes we do have a band available, or we can take one with us when we go like travel somewhere someday when we're allowed to travel again, you know. Or maybe if we do have to go to work, we can easily have one of these like stored in our purse or a backpack, and just little ways to futz around with it. And then I kind of play through with stretching at this angle, I pull against, and then I let it go, tighten it down, and see how much further I can get. So by the end of it, I'm able to get a little more external rotation. And you might notice you get it more on one side. Again, this might not feel like as much of a stretch as the other one did, or other stretches we do, but it gets it heated up, it gets it fatigued. And let's go ahead and relax. So careful on those ones. Okay, something else that I really like to use this for while we're doing upper body stuff has to do with the neck. This one will work really good with neck extensions. So like if you have a towel, it'll be the most comfortable. If you have a band, it'll be fine. You might just have to tension it down a little more. Or what I'm going to do, and suggest Brenna does as well, is double it up so it's a little more taut. Your belt will be just fine, Catherine. Just make sure that it's not uncomfortable on your neck. And what we're going to do, unless you have a reason why not to from your doctor, right? If you're working as a chiro or something, making sure that you're not digging into your neck too much, but you're going to pull it tight, and then you're going to tip your head slowly back and then forward. So I have this kind of down around where that kind of CT region is, from cervical to thoracic. I don't have it up high around the middle of my neck. I have it down low, almost kind of like where you want that barbell to sit below on a back squat. And then I just bring it to tension so that it kind of stabilizes that lower part of my neck, brings it forward, and then I go back. Now I'm not doing any circles with my neck, I'm just doing some extensions. And we're going to do 10 total. And you might notice, at least I do, by the end of it, I can actually keep my mouth closed. Because at the beginning it's so tight in the front of my chin and underneath my jaw that my mouth just drops open. I have 2 more for me, I think. If anybody ever goes back and edits these videos and sees if my counting and timing are right, they're going to be sadly disappointed. But that's not what this is about, right? Okay, go ahead and bring it back. And then just real quick, since we just did those extensions, let's do a flexion forward, a tip side to side, and a turn 2 times through. So no need to go backward again because we've already done it. So I do a flexion forward, I tip, and I turn both ways, just to get a little bit of time that we spent doing actual mobility with that. Okay, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take a break with the upper body, and we're gonna go lower body. So, especially because I was sitting on my knees for a long time, stretch them out. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use it for, I wonder for you guys if it would be easier. Let me drop this down a little bit. We're going to use it for some ankle stuff. Okay, we've done this one before, but not necessarily with a band. So we're going to grab this, we're going to wrap it around. And then some things that we're going to do is we're going to pull it tight. So with the belt, you'll just choke up on it. With the band, you'll actually want to choke up and probably pull to tension. Making sure that it's around kind of the ball of your foot, not inside the arch of your foot or up on your toe all the way. You want to make sure that you can push and hold some resistance. You should feel your calf activating a little bit. And then I do like a 3 to 5 second count in my head, and then I let it come back nice and slow. So I don't just let it flop back. I try to slowly bring it back. And then I try to actually bring my toe towards my nose actively, like I'm trying to really come with the band and pull it. So I'm turning on the muscle in the front of my shin, assisting the band, basically trying to pull it back to my face. I always say toe to nose because it kind of rhymes. And then I push it back down after I count for a bit. And I hold, count for 3 to 5 seconds, depends how fast you count. And then I slowly controlled, bring it back. And then I really try to bring it toe to nose. Again, I'm trying to activate the front of my shin. And then after a 3 to 5 second count in my head, I push it back. And then I bring it back, really bring toe to nose. Good. And then we're going to switch sides. So this is just activating. It's another way. A lot of times when we're doing like CrossFit WODs or a quick warm up before a run or something, we'll do like some heel walks and some toe walks, right? To just get like, oh, here's my calf, and oh, here's my foot is bending up. But this is actually unweighted, just making our ankles go through some resisted range of motion that we don't always take the time to do. I also really like practicing splaying my feet when I do this. So I'll spread my toes as I press. You'll probably be able to see it here. I really try to spread and push through. And then I let it come back slowly. And then I pull towards, and I really try to bring my toe to nose actively with the front of my shin muscles. So I'm helping it, but I'm also trying to do it myself to give feedback to help stretch on the calf, but it's more that it's doing it as a reciprocal thing. Go ahead and push back out. Just taking the time to like activate your calves, spread your toes, and then bringing it back. Activating all through the front of that shin. Really bring it back. And then we'll do it one more time, pushing out. And then we're really bringing it back, letting it stretch in. Perfect. Okay, and then I relax. So the reason that I do those that way, just so you guys are aware, if you have a band, you can also do some really awesome ones of, you know, taking like a soft band like this that has stretch. For these, yes, you can pin that into like a door frame or tie it around something, and then you can do in and out. You can tie it together in a loop and have it on your other foot and go out with it and do all sorts of like strengthening and mobility things. Absolutely. But for the purposes of what we have often available, like a towel or even like a band, but it's just a long band and I'm holding it myself. The reason that I do what I showed you, which was what we call reciprocal inhibition, basically is so that you can get that activation and that stretch while you only have one way of holding the band. So while we're doing this one, where I really bring it toe to nose, I'm having you activate this shin muscle. Your anterior tibialis is what it's called right here. You can see it bumps up on me after I do that versus there, and then it bumps up again. That guy, when it engages, your calf has to relax a little bit in order for it to succeed, right? Because your calf is what points your foot. So in order for it to not be pointed, the calf has to relax. So while it might not feel like a really hardcore stretch, this gets those muscles neurologically playing in counterpart to each other and relaxing a bit. So they might stretch. It also allows them to realize when one's active, the other needs to pattern itself accordingly, if that makes sense. So it's really nice, especially if all you have is a band, or one easy way to hold it is to get a little bit of activity
both ways. So while this way can stretch the front of your foot and activate it and get your calf all warm, it then can relax the calf as its opposite. So that's why we did that one. If you're just wondering why don't I just go up against a wall and stretch it? Absolutely. After doing this, you could totally go and deepen the stretch on the calf, but this is working towards activating and mobilizing those kind of muscles and things that make your feet move the way we want for lifts and stuff, and for running, because we're doing lots of cardio at home, just so that you're guys aware. Okay, next one we're gonna do for lower body is a little bit of hip flexor stretch. Again, some of these people might not need these, but these are ways that we can use if there's certain stretches that we've been crummy at before. And some of these people like Brenna might not even need. We'll see what she's got. But for this one, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing a stretch where we go back and people will often pull through here, right? So there are multiple ways that when we're doing that, right, that we can put a band around us, and I've done this in one before, so that then we can use the band, make sure you really get it on your foot so it doesn't slip off and slap you, right? And really use it to pull and intensify that stretch. So we can, not only can we sink our knee back to intensify it, we can then pull the heel towards the butt. You can have it down and low right here. If it's too much for you to go up and over, you can pull it lower on the shin, whatever you want. You can also, if you want to do more of a runner's lunge, you can come up this way. It's completely up to you on what you do with the front leg and still intensify that stretch. So some people really want to sink in through the hip flexor like this, and you can still have that band available so that if you're not someone that can reach behind you and pull or reach back, or you're really trying to relax and focus on your hips being square, you can then pull through with that. So you guys can take your pick on whether you want to be upright like me and pulling in. Again, it's a little bit less intense than a couch stretch. So this way you get a good stretch when you maybe don't have the mobility, or you can be down in almost like a pigeon stretch on the front leg and then pull the back. I'll let you guys play around with it and choose. And for those of you at home that are watching this later and you're like, screw this, I'm tired of using a band, or I'm flexible enough that I can just reach back behind and pull, good work. That's totally fine. You work on that one. Or if you don't have a band and you just want to do a regular stretch like this, but the legs just flat, that's fine too. Spend some time in pigeon or in some runner's stretch. I think it might be called like dragon or something. I'm not sure on all the other poses. I also try to I like having the band because then I can work on like how I'm sinking my hips, how I'm rocking through it. Like I said, play around. We're going to sit on this one side for a little bit longer. So if you'd already been doing pigeon and you want to move to the upright position, like what I had it before, that's fine. If you want to come up like dragon and then pull, that's fine. Whatever works for you, whatever floats your boat. If you want to go down to pigeon because you've been up this way, that's fine. And again, you can also always add where you push against the resistance and then let it sink into it, and then push against the resistance and then let it sink in. Let's go ahead and carefully come out of that one, relax. I always stretch kind of that front leg a little bit, and then we're gonna switch sides. So again, these are just ways to brainstorm today in our mobility of different ways to use a prop like this. We only have one more move after this one, which is gonna be for the hips. This gets hip flexor, I know. These ones right here, and quad quite well. So I'm going to start this one with pigeon, a little bit lower for me because I know this is a struggle bus for me on pigeon and being able to be sitting square. And then I'm going to add that stretch. With the next one we'll do, we'll just use the band to really stretch some hamstring and some hip and groin and adductor that I think you guys will like. So just a couple of fun ways that people will use belts or tools like bands and stuff in their stretching, so that if you see people that are super flexible and can touch their feet and do all this stuff, just extend your arms or your legs by turning them into a band, and then you can really reach stuff if you're not as flexible as like Brenna, for example. And for Brenna, it's great because then when you are flexible, this way you can add things that you can practice getting strength in that flexibility by adding resistance against it, right? So there's bonuses for both. If you haven't, we'll spend a little more time here. if you want to try going up in a dragon, if you did it on both sides and play around with it and add the quad stretch, that's fine too. Maybe mix it around for the next 30 seconds or so. I also try to like kind of sink my hips down, play around with rocking through it. Again, sometimes I give myself resistance and then I sink back in. Okay, let's carefully come out of that one. Okay, the last ones we're gonna do, you're gonna be on your back. Again, trying to make sure I find good ways for you guys to see. And you're gonna put it up and around your foot. So you should be able to relax your head. Mine's gonna be up so that I can see what you guys are seeing. And you're just gonna use it. You might be out here, if that's where your hamstrings allow. That's fine. It's just like having a partner to stretch your hamstrings and things. The thing that I like about having something to hold and do ourselves is we can bring it in a little and then relax. We can even bring it in and then try to resist against it just a little bit. You might feel that it allows your hamstring to not feel so tight, and then relax. So you can bring it towards you. You can put it further onto the toe and really deepen the stretch behind the calf that we talked about earlier, right? You can really get the stretch that way. Just don't let it fall off the tip of your toes and slap you in the face. And then again, you can totally resist against that. And all of a sudden you'll have that stretch, but yet it won't feel like it's pulling as much because those muscles are firing, really trying to brace against that stretch. And that allows them to slowly relax. And then when you pull it back, you can deepen into that stretch a little bit. The other thing while you're here and on this side, keep playing around with it. We're going to spend another 30 seconds or more on this one, depending on what you guys are feeling, is I'll let it fall out to the side a little bit and I'll play with it, knowing that I can hold on and support it. So I'll let it fall out kind of at different angles. So I might fall out here, I might fall out lower. I might be able to bring it up here and fall out a little bit more to the side. Sometimes, again, I fall down. Sometimes I push against it and resist. And then I loosen up a little bit, choke it up a little more, and then see how much higher up I can then fall into that position. So just play with it, guys. I actually really like this one. A lot of people will do like where they'll go up against a wall with their legs and then try to let them fall to the side. I really like having them fall to the side while we can play around with even like a slight bend in the knee and then straightening it, right? As we go through that range of motion, because it's not as stiff or as permanent and unyielding of a stretch as a wall is, right? When we have a belt or something that we get to play around with the angle, we can play around with what our foot's doing to intensify it and how far up and then relax. A wall, once you're there, that's where the wall is, right? Go ahead and switch sides. So I do like using these, or if you had a hip belt, whatever you personally have. And like this side is way tighter all of a sudden, so now I'm gonna push. Again, if you have it, switch sides. I'm gonna push in a little bit. For me, I'm gonna just match resistance of the band. And then I'm gonna relax it, try to come a little bit higher, straighten the leg. I'm gonna flex the toe a little bit, really deepen the stretch of my calf. Everybody's a little different, just talking through different playing ideas. Again, if you want to start early and start drifting out to the side, if you got tight adductors and groin area, you wanna go out to the side, go ahead. You can, like I said, while you're out to the side, you can bend and then straighten the knee, play around with pulses throughout the whole range of motion. All this stuff can be really nice. And then again, I always add a little bit of resistance, like a 5-second count. Then I relax and I deepen the stretch. I pull it in a little bit more because now I just use that muscle and hopefully it relaxed a little bit into it. And again, you can play around with the angle with which you guys can see if with which you fall out. So falling out down lower versus falling out up higher. Everybody's a little bit different. And don't forget about using that foot. You can always bring your toe towards your nose and increase that stretch on the calf, which then can get it into the hammies as well. All right, go ahead and relax. So super simple today, all based around a few of my favorite things, and really the only ones that I ever use bands or towels or belts for. There are lots of other things that you could probably figure out ways to creatively use them. But these are the ones that I find I use these for the most. Or they're helpful in some of the ones where maybe like this one I've never been able to touch. Well, it makes me feel like I'm somewhat capable at getting something out of the movement, right? Or I like being able to use the band for some of the others so that I can relax the parts that are supposed to be relaxed instead of I'm working so hard just to get in the position that I then can't relax into the position. Sometimes that's where you'll find that this is really helpful. My hips get a lot more range of motion when I'm doing it with a band than when I try to stick myself against a wall based on the wall's ability to move or not move. This allows me to kind of play with my own idiosyncrasies, one side to the other, or tensions and stuff. Do you guys have any questions about these? Or I'm going to throw out there as a fun one, anything that you guys have used a band for in your past with any sorts of mobilities or things we've ever done at the gym, just in case you happen to have it since you're on video. Anything, any moves to share? All right.
Well,
So
I don't know about that, but I saw a Facebook ad for some sort of barbell system that was all based on like a barbell and then bands at the end, and then you're standing on a platform and you're like pushing a, and I was wondering, like, does that work?
yeah, so the bands and stuff are there for resistance instead of like a free weight. Is as you press up, you're intensifying the weight that you're having to press against. So you're getting torque back against you. And so it actually is great because banded types of resistance moves, just like I talked about with like the stretch down here of like activating and pressing, is you have to control that weight distribution instead of getting to start the weight moving and then it just moves. Like when we jump or press, you have to control it up and down because it's a constant increasing resistance. And then as it comes down, it's actually decreasing resistance. And so it's constantly ever changing adaptations to your stabilizers and the amount of strength that you're firing throughout the whole move. So that's a great thing to point out, is that our resistance bands can do a whole heck of a lot and vary our training as well. So I encourage you to look into things for bands, belts, assistance stuff with stretches and with lifts while you're at home, because you can sub a lot of that stuff in. And then I would just hit up either me or like Greg and Angie. If you don't necessarily can't get your hands on some weights, but you have some band options, they tend to have pretty good ideas of ways you can add resistance to stop using those equipment for sure.
Yeah, I've been missing the barbells.
Oh, I know. It's rough. It's a mindset when you're a fan of a barbell. It's like an addiction. Do you guys have anything else that you had questions about that we did, or did you find those helpful enough at all? I know it was a little bit different take today, something different and simple. All right, perfect. I'm going to end the recording then here, just 1 second. And there we go.